MC on the circuit, guys. Come on. Yay! White Bear, how are we doing? That's right, that's right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much, Peter. In fact, a round of applause for Mr. Peter Lloyd, ladies and gentlemen. What a thing! 5 of the best. That's press that you just cannot buy. Guys, I love this. I love coming out to places like West Ruislip. I've never been here before. It's wonderful. I love it. I've been here actually this afternoon. Thought I'd have a walk about. Bottomless chips across the road. Do people know about this? All the chips you can eat, bottomless. Bottom, not really a word I would use if I was going to do an offer on chips. But brilliant, love it, really, really good. One of my favourite things actually about being a comedian is you get to travel around London a lot. You get to go to places you wouldn't normally go, you get to see things. I love that. But there is a slight downside to travelling around a lot and working in London, especially at night. And that is that you often find yourself on your way home on something that I call the night bus. Have we experienced the night bus? Yeah, a few people. What about you guys at the back? Do we know about the night bus? Yeah. We do. It's a wonderful thing. You get the whole scope of humanity is there on the night bus, isn't it? And always included within this wide scope of humanity is at least one utter nutter. Yes? Have we found this guy? Generally at the top deck, generally a man, generally with a beard, and generally talking about things that you couldn't possibly expect him to know. I had one recently, my cat's on fire. My cat's on fire, and the cat wasn't with him. How did he know his cat was on fire if the cat wasn't there? Because we all know cats can't text, they don't have phones, they can't do it. My cat's on fire. And I suppose my assumption, the assumption that I lived by up until about 4 weeks ago, the assumption I'd always lived by was that mad people on the night bus are mad people who get on a night bus and continue to be mad. Get off the bus, still mad. Mad throughout the whole of it, just some of that time spent on a night bus. That's like, you're kind of nodding as if, yeah, that makes sense. If you're mad and you're on a night bus, you're the mad person on the night bus, yeah? But the madness comes with you onto the bus, that's the assumption. And I found out about 4 weeks ago, and this is true, that that's an incorrect assumption. Sometimes, a perfectly sane, normal, likeable even, tall, blonde person can get on a night bus and become mad through no fault of his own, apart from maybe a little romantic whimsy. That's all it takes. I know this because it won't come as a great surprise to some of you just from looking at me, but I'm not what you traditionally call a ladies' man. I don't have the swagger of a man that can walk into a bar and do the kind of, hey, how are you doing? Yeah? See? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't generally work. But about 4 weeks ago, and this is absolutely true, for once in my life, I found myself at a crowded bar in Islington next to a stunningly beautiful blonde lady, and we struck up a conversation. And I think the one detail that made it so much more successful than my normal conversations with women is that she was an American from Kentucky. Men in the audience, have you ever had the experience of chatting up an American? No? No one here has ever done that? Chatting up an American? Someone at the back, people. No? Well, I'll tell you, it's a revelation. It's a wonderful thing, because suddenly all these little things that we try and suppress as you can see, quite posh Englishmen, the things we suppress suddenly become a kind of a gateway to a new experience of what you can be, a new experience of what women want. Words like crikey, or pardon even. Or even, and at this point I was getting a little bit PG Wodehouse, I say. It works, it's an incredible thing. I had quite a lot to drink, but I was, especially pardon. Pardon isn't normally a very sexy word, is it? But for some reason, I said it a couple of times, she was coming out with these wonderful things like, well, I guess so. Yeah, I can see that. And I just went, pardon? And apparently that worked. Pardon? Really? Pardon? And that worked. It works so well that after quite a lot to drink, because you need it, don't you? Quite a lot to drink, at the end of the night, as we were leaving, I was confident enough to turn to this young lady and say, so maybe we should swap numbers or something, and then meet up for a coffee or something. I don't know. Maybe we should. And she looked at me and she went, well, yeah, that would be swag. And then she took my phone out of my hand and she typed her number into it. And she handed it back to me and she said possibly the sexiest thing that anyone has ever said to me. She said in this wonderful Midwestern accent, she said, "Now you got my number, I guess you can send me lots of saucy texts." Lots of saucy texts. Oh. I was drunk at this point, but that just struck me as the most incredible thing anyone has ever said to me. And then it was 2 in the morning, I had her number, I staggered out of the pub, and I waited for the night bus. And sure enough, pretty soon, the 341 that takes me back up to Haringey, where I live, came along, and I stumbled onto it with that ever-present question that you have after a good night in the pub: will I be able to make it home on the bus before I really need a wee? And I went up onto the top deck, and I sat there with this glow of joy. Saucy texts. Saucy. It took me about 15 minutes before I thought, I'm doing it now. Now is the time. I am going to send this young lady some saucy texts. And then, and please remember that I was drunk. It occurred to me that possibly the funniest, wittiest, sexiest thing I could do, saucy texts. I'm going to text her sauces. That will be a saucy text. And for about 10 minutes, I worked on this masterpiece. And after about 10 minutes, I had the following: HP, comma, soy, comma, kiss. And even in my befuddled, drunken state, I knew this was not enough. I knew I needed at least one more sauce. I knew I needed an impressive sauce, a sexy sauce, a sophisticated sauce. I knew at 2:30 on the night bus on my way back up to Haringey, I knew that I needed Worcester. Worcester is a smart fucking sauce. And it took me about another 10 minutes to realise that I had absolutely no idea how to spell Worcester. Absolutely none whatsoever. There are lots of C's involved, and you just don't know where to put them. You just don't. And so it was, through no fault of my own, that I was suddenly the mad person on the bus. Because I staggered up to my feet, top deck. I looked around. I get quite posh when I'm drunk. And I said, "Sorry! Sorry, does anybody here know how to spell Worcester? Please?" I felt the eyes. I was quite far forward on the bus. I felt the eyes behind me. I knew I had to explain myself. "Don't worry, it's to impress a girl. I need to spell Worcester to impress an American. Does anybody, please? No? Okay, fine. I'm getting off the bus." And I staggered off the bus. And I felt dejected for a while, and I did what I had to do, which was a wee. And about 10 minutes later, with slightly damp hands, undeterred, I sent the following: HP, comma, soy, comma, this is true. Wostos, question mark, C, question mark, kiss. I sent that text 4 weeks ago, this is true. And do you know the wonderful thing? The next morning, when I woke up with a cracking hangover, she'd replied. To Wostos, question mark, she'd replied. American girls! She'd replied to this, and we met up again, and I fell a little bit in love, because for about 2 weeks we had this wonderful relationship. We met up, I said crikey a lot, and we got on tremendously. Pardon? Pardon? It was just wonderful. And then, as all things must do, after about 2 weeks, her holiday was over, and she moved back to Kentucky. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more than that, guys. She moved back to Kentucky, and that was a very sad thing for me. That was a terrible thing, but like all sad moments, there is often a silver lining, and we'd got on so well that we decided for a short amount of time to give the whole long-distance relationship thing a try. Has anyone here ever had a go at a long-distance relationship? Yeah? Maybe raise a few hands so I know I've got support in the room. Long-distance relationship? You, sir. Sorry, what's your name? Rick. I'm Richard. Rick. We've got a lot in common. When were you doing your long-distance relationship, Rick? A few years ago. So, was this before or after the invention of Skype? You Skyped, did you? Yeah. Did you ever use video Skype, Rick? Yeah, use video Skype? Did you have a go at the old Skype sex? Never did Skype sex? No. Well, I can tell you something, Rick. I've done Skype sex. Once. One time I did Skype sex, and the reason that it was only the one time is, well, my computer's quite old. It's quite a heavy laptop, and it's got the pinhole camera at the top of the screen. Do we know, we can all visualize this, can we, even at the back? And I just found I'm not a natural cameraman by any means, and I found the angles tricky, because it's quite a heavy laptop, and I had to hold it quite far back, so as to both give the young American lady, whose name incidentally is Kristen, she made me promise that I would not say that, but there you are, Kristen, to give her a visual, not only of my smiling face, but also, if you will excuse me, the white bear and rusted, an idea of what was going on. Because that's the very nature of Skype sex. And because of that, I found myself leaning back, craning to get the angle right, and I was so focused, and I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but it's true. I was so focused on the angles and the projection and everything else that was going on that I forgot what is, in the gentlest terminology possible, the natural conclusion of the act I was engaged upon. And it was only actually once the natural conclusion of the act occurred that I realised I was in quite a precarious situation. Because, as they say, time slows down in a moment of crisis. And for D.H. Lawrence fans out there, this was a moment of crisis. And it was only when I looked back from the screen that I realised what was happening. Because the ejaculate, shall we say, was airborne. And at this point, way beyond a time when I had any way of avoiding what was about to happen, I did the only thing I could do, and I meekly turned away. And I felt it land perfectly. And then I had to look back. 3,000 miles away, smiling at me through my laptop with that kind of post-coital look of affection, possibly even love. Kristen was smiling at me. And I looked back at her with the face of a man who was unexpectedly just come in his own ear. And I think she could tell something was wrong, because it wasn't a nice face. It was a face like this. So she said to me, she said, "Baby, what's up?" In a relationship, you often find yourself at a moment where you can either tell the truth about what's really happening and live with those consequences, or you can lie. And I'm proud, White Bear, Pub, Riselet, that I chose the path of truth at that moment. And I looked at Kristen and I said, trying to, wrap it up a bit, I said, well, crikey, I suppose I hadn't really done this before Kristen, and I suppose I just got a bit overexcited, and I suppose I came in my own ear a little bit. And she looked back at me with a look of confusion and mild disgust, and she said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And as a comedian, occasionally you'll find a callback just standing waiting for you, and you have to take it. And so I did. I cupped my slightly sticky ear, I looked back at the computer, and I just said, "Pardon?" Guys, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much. My name's Richard Rogers. Good night.